It's okay. We've been here before. Carry on the light. They won't know it is It's okay. We've been here before. Carry on the light. They won't know it hurts more.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the HP Podcast, number 279. Dave, it is just 3 weeks until that fabled 300 number you keep talking about. And I never really think about the numbers of the podcast, but you mentioned it, that 300 was going to be coming up this year, and I'm like, you're right. Anyway, I'm Ben. Dave, though, have you created an unhealthy obsession in my mind now?
Sorry, can you repeat what you just said? How many weeks until 300?
21?
Okay, I heard 3.
He said 3.
Okay, I'm not going 3. Brandon had the same reaction I did. It was like, how many shows are we doing over the next 3 weeks?
We're
Damn.
just back to back to. It's just
Okay, I definitely misspoke. If you,
That's
I mean,
okay.
I don't remember it, and that's fine. I don't care. I'll misspeak. But here's the logic that is in my brain of why I probably misspoke. I was thinking 21. I was dividing that by 7 because of 7 days in a week. So my head thought of 3 weeks, 21
Sure.
days. But it's not 21 days, 21 weeks.
21 is a multiple of 3. So I
Correct.
can see where that came from. But
yeah, but what about when the Beatles said 8 days a week? You know,
Well, they were all on drugs.
fucked everybody up.
yeah.
No. Not like the
yeah,
good drugs either, like the dangerous drugs, you know.
Ringo's
300
never been the
episodes.
same.
It's so I haven't extrapolated yet, but I assume that's going to be sometime in October or November.
Yeah, I have
Um,
not figured it out. You would
but,
think, that's all I think about it, though.
Yeah, we're doing a live show, I assume, somewhere in Vegas.
HP.
We do a live
300.
show every week.
No, I mean like a
A
one that
stage
people
show?
can come to. Yeah, stage show. That's the
in
word.
person.
Yeah.
You've
It's gonna
become an
be-
expert on organizing those things, Ben. So I know you could throw it together. But
I
the
have
question
done
is,
that in the past.
would more than 12 people come? Not
Uh,
including family members.
Maybe we could like hire the homeless to come in. Like, here's a free beer. You have to stay for a minimum of 13 minutes. Like, what's our average watch time on YouTube? You have to stay that much longer
Right.
at the
At
actual
least.
show.
I wonder how many people can be accommodated in the A Plus gas station. I'm thinking
That
of-
place is tiny.
I'm thinking of hosting it there. Yeah, we're good. The more people that are in it, it looks like there's more people. You know, when there's less potatoes on the plate, the steak looks bigger, sort of
Yeah.
thing. You know what I mean?
Welcome on in, Brandon. Also here, Brandon. Do you think that if we offered free roller hot dogs to the homeless, that would be more enticing as well? A beer and a free roller hot dog.
I'm not coming unless there's free roller hot dogs. So, I'd say yes.
Okay. So you're saying that your standard a free beer and a roller hot dog is the same as a homeless person standard.
And I think if you go in a gas station, if you eat the roller dog before you get to the counter, it's free. You just have to eat it before you get to the counter. I think that's the rule.
Bro, one time in that same A plus that's right near your house that we're talking about here, which I think it's technically a 7-Eleven. I think 7-Eleven owns them now.
It's always A plus, man.
Well, it's A plus, but it's 7-Eleven. I walked in there, and a man in front of me got like it wasn't a full gallon. It was either a half gallon or a quarter. I don't know, whatever it was. It was like a small thing of milk, 2%. I don't think that matters for this story, but it was 2% milk. And he walked up, and there were like probably 5 or 7 people in line in front of us, buying lottery tickets or getting cigarettes or paying for their gas in boob money, bra money, whatever. Boob money would be interesting. Bra money is gross. There's a difference there. But so while he's standing in line, he just opens the like quart of milk or whatever it was and starts drinking it. And by the time he got to the counter to pay, it was like 2/3 gone.
See, that's
He
where
drank-
it went wrong. Yeah.
Listen, he drank like a portion of a gallon of milk in like less than 10 minutes in a gas station. How bad do you have to be out and down to do that?
That man was sweating on the way home. I bet you any money. It didn't matter what the temperature was. He was sweating. Yeah,
You
I
see
couldn't
some
do it.
crazy stuff in gas stations, man.
Yeah, I couldn't do it. God,
Dave,
especially-
do you guys
especially
have
that one.
the gas stations like we have? They're more and more popular in the U.S., but specifically in our area, we have a lot of gas stations that do like they're less about the gas. I mean, they have the gas, like that's the thing, but they're really convenience stores. Like we have Sheetz, Get Go. I think you've been to those when you were in town. Do you guys have stuff like that where you're, it's really an experience, not just a place to get gas?
No, that is pretty exclusive to the United States of America, and it's honestly one of the attractions for when we come down there is stopping at a gas station and seeing all the cool stuff they have.
Mm-hmm.
I think like if you're really desperate, like they do have like loaves of bread and stuff at Canadian gas stations, but it's
Yeah.
ridiculously expensive. So it's
Right.
just like if you're desperate, but otherwise it's just like a little convenience store of just snacks and gum and stuff. But like my wife and I were driving home from Maine one year, and we stopped at a gas station just to fill up right before we left Portland, Maine, and to this day we've had the best gas station cuisine at this gas station ever. And it was just a pickled sausage, and it was disgusting, but it was so good. And I know those are contradictory things, but it's just like it was just perfectly pickled, and it had a nice amount of spice, and it was just girthy, and we've looked for them ever since, and we can't find these really nice spicy pickled sausages.
Was it bright red?
I know the one you're talking about. It wasn't that.
Okay.
But yeah.
What are those made of, Brandon? What is that actual meat? that's in there?
Assholes and snouts, obviously.
Well, that's pretty much all sausages.
Yeah.
Yeah. When it says all beef, it doesn't mean it was like the good part of the beef.
Yes. Some part.
Yeah.
The lips. You never know.
But even
There
like
was-
like all the different flavors of soft drinks that you guys have that we don't have here. Like it's honestly a treat. And
Mhm.
I'm always curious if you guys came up here, what would be the equivalent? Probably nothing. But yeah.
An actual
it's-
store.
Or even just like all the like fast food chains that you guys have down there that I've heard of but never seen, and the portions are like 3 times as big as I'm used to. Yeah, that kind of stuff is pretty
Like
cool.
what? Like what's one that you don't have that we have?
The last time not the last time I came, but a couple of years ago when I went to Western Michigan, Culver's was one that
we
I
don't have
never even
those.
heard of, and apparently
Yeah.
that's a big Midwest thing. But things like Jack in the Box, we just got our first. What was it called? I don't know. There was another chain that just recently opened up, but it's only downtown Toronto. But like Jimmy John's, like that's something you can't get in Canada.
Yeah, Jimmy John sucks. So that's fine.
I don't know. There's a lot of them. And
Yeah. So basically what you're saying is Brandon and I live in Toronto because we don't have like any of the things you just mentioned here.
apparently, yeah.
No, we live in heaven. We live in the United States of America.
My
Read and
favorite
weep, rest of
part-
the world.
There's one Chipotle maybe 2 or 3. So that's another one, and that's really good. And you guys have that close by, don't you?
Well, we do, but the one close by sucks balls.
Okay.
So
It's
yeah,
fine. They all suck now.
they don't. I don't know what I need to do to teach you guys.
Do you remember post-COVID Chipotle?
No.
You know that Ric Flair crying meme? That's exactly what happens whenever I think about pre-COVID.
Yeah.
Pre-COVID Chipotle was just hitting different, buddy. It's
But
all
dude,
been downhill since then.
Listen, our local Butler Chipotle is the worst Chipotle in the country. I've been to them all over the place. I've been to them recently in places other than Butler, and they were fine. You're right. They were all better, at least the ones I went to pre-COVID.
I gotta
The
ask.
one in Butler is potentially the worst restaurant in America.
I gotta take a couple steps back here.
You're
Mhm.
trolling.
Do you guys have a Trader Joe's and or a Target anywhere close to you?
We have a
Target very
Target
close.
Okay.
Trader Joe's is like
40
probably
minutes?
40, probably like 50. I think there's one like
Yeah.
clean up McKnight area.
So we make regular pilgrimages to Buffalo
Mm-hmm.
and upstate New York, specifically for Trader Joe's. And
Yeah.
Target, here's the sour thing is like we had Target here for about 2 years and it failed so badly because it opened up and everybody thought it was going to be the same Target that they had in the States.
Mhm.
And it looked like it, but like none of the deals were the same. So yeah, when it comes to like stuff that you guys have that we don't, Target and Trader Joe's, I think are the big ones, aside from like the fast food and the gas stations. But Target and Trader Joe's, those are big.
And the
Well, Dave, the
guys-
thing you're missing out on the most, not having a Sheets in your neck of the woods, is that you can't go get a 3.5 ounce bag of beef jerky for $22.99.
That's true.
Yeah,
That's true.
that's the treat.
You also can't get a jalapeno popper at 4 a.m. in the morning.
That's true.
Not by
Deli-
traditional means.
It hasn't happened in the last couple of years, but there have been many occasions of me rolling up to Sheets at 3 a.m. because I just needed jalapeno
Sheets
poppers or mozzarella
sustenance.
sticks. You know,
Something.
it's been a while, but it happened. It did happen. Now Sheets delivers. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah,
Sheets
you,
delivers.
you pay enough money, you can get fucking anything to your door nowadays.
That's true. Well, I mean, we've only had DoorDash here for like a couple of years because there's just nobody here that wanted to try. I don't know. Anyway, this is the HPcast. We talk about video games and gas station meets when we can, anytime we get the opportunity. Thanks for hanging out here. If you're here live, we're live on YouTube every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, or Daylight Time. Eastern Time. How about that? We'll just simplify it for everybody. Eastern Time. You can also check us out on free feeds Thursdays at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Or if you want to sign up for our Patreon over at patreon.com/handsomephantom, you can do so for as little as $1 a month to get every show on audio feeds ad-free and early. Get it on Wednesdays if you like. But we appreciate everybody who's listening, watching, whatever you're doing, checking us out, regardless of whether you're a patron or not. But we like the patrons more. That's a fact. You can also hang out with us on Discord over at handsomephantom.com/Discord. We appreciate the people who come over and hang out with us, drop strange emotes in the chat. It really is a treat to be able to hang out with you guys. We appreciate that. Lots of folks in chat already. The first thing I see is Hulk Hogan, which
I wonder why.
is a standard
Legendary.
here.
Yeah.
Legendary.
And then Derek asked, have you guys ever done the gallon milk challenge? You puke a lot. It's great. Derek, I like milk. I don't have a problem with milk. But
I'd do
that
it.
sounds awful.
I don't think milk's that great. Like truthfully, I feel like
I mean, it's
there's-
not that. It's fine.
It's not good. I'm gonna put a stake in the ground. Milk is bad.
What should I expect from a Butler Chipotle lover?
Oh my god, dude, you're trolling. It's
I'm not.
fine.
No, I troll a lot. I do.
You're
I
trolling,
pretend like
bro.
I don't like things that I actually don't care about at all. Whatever. I will not go back to that Chipotle.
You were trolling.
And I
I'm gonna-
love I love Chipotle.
I'm gonna
If
buy
I
it
really
for you.
love Chipotle, if I really was trolling, I'd be there with you guys every Thursday when you go.
I'm gonna buy it for you and put it on your doorstep,
I'm
and
not
then you're
going
gonna
there.
and then you're gonna have to eat it.
I mean, if you bring free food to my house and it's edible and I'm hungry, I'm probably going to eat it. But I'm not going to go there and spend money.
So you're trolling.
It's garbage. It's so bad compared to how it used to be.
Hey,
Also, the next thing I see in chat is Tom saying, always thought Sheets sold bed stuff. It's Sheets with a Z. They sell everything but bed stuff, really. You can even
Just
buy
condoms.
Fortnite gift cards there if you want, and condoms, yeah.
But you
Well,
can buy
that's true.
Pokemon cards. That's like a new thing that like Pokemon cards are popular enough that they're like selling them at gas stations and shit now too.
Okay, so here's the weird thing about the Pokemon cards in the gas station. You can get like the straight up packs, the unopened packs, whatever. Those are regular price,
The bootleg.
maybe even up a little bit. The other thing you can get is a little pack that has been repackaged. And I don't know who's selling them these things, but it's like, get these 10 Pokemon cards for $3. And it's just somebody opened a bunch of packs, took out the good cards that were worth anything, and repackaged the really shitty cards. And they do this with baseball cards too, and put them back out there for people to buy in already sorted through packs. There is no chance you're ever getting a good card in those packs.
That's just for kids, I think.
It is.
My cousin's sons were over here, and they're big into hockey cards.
Yeah.
And I had like 3 boxes full of just base cards. And I just gave them to them. And I said, "You guys want these? Because they're just taking up space." They love these cards. There was nothing but base cards in there, but they were just like, "Oh, there's this player and this player." So for a kid, it's perfect. You know.
It is. I definitely feel like when I collected Pokemon cards back in the original 51 Pokemon, and that's all I will acknowledge still. I just like to collect them. But now that there's all these, my kids, when they get Pokemon cards, my youngest likes it because his brother likes it. But the oldest, he like knows what he's looking for, and if he doesn't get something good, he's, not happy about it. Not that he gets like upset or anything, but he's like, I didn't get what I wanted. He actually knows. I'm like, it's much more enjoyable if you don't know. You just think the pictures are cute. Ponyta.
You don't acknowledge Mewtwo.
Well, Mewtwo wasn't one of the original, but yes, I would still acknowledge that over the new abominations that they've created.
So 151.
Sure. But not... How many are there? There's like thousands now, right?
I know.
There's so many sets. It's
My
crazy.
new favorite that is the least effort possible is the one that's actually just a trash bag.
Oh, yeah, I did see. I think you sent me a picture of it.
I'm serious. I wish I was exaggerating. It's actually just a trash bag.
Yeah. Well, people need to feel represented. So let's talk about, why do you guys have to type things in my chat that I can't repeat?
Sorry.
You type things in the document that I can't say. Like, I laugh at them. People are like, Ben, what are you laughing at? I can't just say this. I can't say this. I mean, I can.
No. What fun would that be? There you go.
Thank you for making it hot pink or purple or whatever that was. The news story number 1. Over the past week, leaks of a game called Deadlock, rumored to be Valve's next big release, have surfaced online. Deadlock is said to be a 6v6 hero shooter with large maps, abilities, items, and a mix of fantasy and steampunk elements. Initially leaked by Gabe Follower and Player IGN on Twitter, the floodgates open with 94 video clips on 4chan. Deadlock, appearing to be in beta, shows fast-paced gameplay with floating rails for quick travel. It draws comparisons to Overwatch, of course, and Team Fortress 2. Valve has not confirmed or even acknowledged... I gotta move, guys. Valve has not confirmed the game's existence, but the detailed leaks suggest it's real. Despite its significant interest, Valve has yet to comment or officially announce Deadlock. There's also been like a bunch of stuff leaked. I think there's even, if you look in the right places, there's even a playable alpha of it that somebody uploaded. I'm sure it's not like an online version that you just run around with the characters. But Brandon, since you are the Overwatch aficionado, well, you used to be the Overwatch aficionado. But this game, you look at it and you're like, yeah, it's an Overwatch clone.
Right.
But it's Valve doing it.
Right.
First of all, do you have any hope for it? And second of all, what do you think about the fact that almighty Valve had something leaked? Because that's unusual for them.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I want to comment on this first. I feel like it's strange after all these leaks for them to say nothing at all. I feel like we'll obviously get something at some point, but I feel like that's the strangest part to me of all of this, is that so much was leaked and nothing has been said at all. Not even like, hey, this is coming. It's just like pretty much radio silence. So No, I think this is great. We could have probably assumed Valve was working on something all this time. Now I know they're just absolutely raking in the money, but they make games too, and really, really good games. And so, yeah, I'm very, very excited for this. Honestly, I would put more faith in Valve at this point than Blizzard. So I think there's great potential for something like this. And I think one of the biggest and worst problems with something like Overwatch now is that it kind of lost its focus. It kind of lost its competitive edge. The competitive scene was completely dissolved. And if Valve is good at one thing, it's um, you know, coddling a very wonderful competitive gameplay scene. And I think that's what's going to be great about this game. I'm honestly looking forward to it quite a bit. Um, I'm a first person guy, but I've been known to play a third person game or two. So yeah, this
Yeah.
is good. And Valve makes really, really, really good games. So yeah, I'm about it, man. I think this is great. I just wish they'd say something like officially.
Dave, Valve has always kind of marched to the beat of their own drum, and they can afford to do so because there are very few misses when it comes to Valve. But what do you think about this? I don't know if you've seen any of the gameplay or anything, but also just the fact that, it was leaked at all. It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, as far as leaks go, this is kind of up there with the Wolverine thing in terms of how much content actually got out there. And normally when, you have tests like this, I've done tests like this and everything is watermarked and you sign a million NDAs and it's, I guess if enough people band together and say, let's just put this out there, then, is Valve going to take everybody to court? But yeah, it just seems like an announcement, an official unveiling from Valve is imminent because there's just so much for people to see. I have seen some of the screens. I didn't see any of the gameplay, but I was a little surprised at how derivative it looked compared to some of the kind of contemporaries out there, that be it Overwatch or Dota, stuff like that. So yeah, I was surprised it didn't look a little bit more unique in its own thing. But again, I was just looking at still screenshots, so maybe seeing it in action will be a little bit better. As far as my own interest in this, there's a game I've really been hoping Valve was going to announce, and I'm sure many other people have, and this wasn't it. But yeah, I don't think that Valve really works in terms of fan service anymore. I think Valve just proves time and time and again that they're a revenue first business, which most businesses should be. And MOBAs, anything in this sort of genre is going to make a lot of money, and I think that's where Valve's mind is, and they're probably going to make a ton of money on whatever this ends up being. So yeah, would have loved to see Half-Life 3, but whatever, it is what it is. I guess I probably won't play it because I've always associated MOBAs as being extremely toxic and extremely sweaty. I don't know if I'm wrong there, but they've never been kind of up my alley. But
Well, this isn't really a MOBA by the traditional definition.
I don't know. The article that you linked, I went through
Yeah.
it, and they used the word Dota and MOBA a couple times.
Oh, did they?
I
Okay.
figured that's kind of what they were going for. And again, maybe it's blurring the lines a little bit between
Yeah.
an arena shooter, hero shooter with
Right.
Overwatch and traditional Dota. But yeah, in any case, it's probably not something that's up my alley. But we'll see.
I remember, Brandon, I don't know if you remember this, Dustin used to, on an old show we had, anytime someone would guest on the show and they would talk about a MOBA, he would cut them off and scream, "No MOBAs on this show." uh, Brendan, I don't know. Well, either of you, I don't know if you saw this, but the way that so this got leaked, and I think there weren't they were able to either get rid of the watermarks or there weren't watermarks. But what they didn't realize was that there was something in it that Valve could decipher. I don't know. I'm just imagining they had a screen they put up in front of it, and it actually showed them code in the background of it. That's the way it was kind of described in the article I read, that they were able to see whose it was. And then they went in and banned that user from Steam. Now, you have to be a pretty trusted Steam user to get access to an alpha for an unannounced Valve game. So they probably have a lot of games on their account, a lot of play hours at the very least, if not a lot of games. So even if you don't see your IP address flashing over your closed beta or closed alpha or whatever, still don't leak it because they clearly had a way to find out for
Right.
sure. Yeah, I think this game will be interesting. I don't know if it's going to be able to compete with Marvel Rivals or whatever it's called, but we'll see. We'll see if it can hold up.
Jesus Christ. As a
Oh man,
Ugh.
that's going to be rough. It's going to be a rough time. Mobile game. What do you think the hold up? Well, not the hold up, but Valve clearly knows, and we're getting off on a tangent here. Thank you, Dave. I actually do appreciate this one. I appreciate all your tangents, Dave. That wasn't what I was trying to say. Valve clearly knows that we want Half-Life 3. Do you think this is just a matter of, well, nobody that we have right now wants to work on it, so we're not going to do it? Or is it, we know that if we put out Half-Life 3 and it's not the most amazing game the internet has ever seen, we will be torn to shreds. And so we have to get it perfect. What do you think, Brandon?
I don't know, man. I don't think it really matters if
Yeah.
Valve puts out a good game or not at this point. Like, I mean, does it?
Yeah. I mean,
Will
you're
it
probably right that it doesn't
will it
matter,
just-
but they also
you know,
haven't
like-
done that.
Like, I'm not saying that it would be a good thing or that I suspect that sort of thing would happen or they would just allow that sort of thing to happen.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is that, like, that's not their main revenue source anymore,
No.
and it hasn't been for an incredibly long time. So I don't want to say these are like passion projects, but these are just like extra money in the bag. This is just like the cheddar, the icing on top, So I don't know. I feel like this sort of game is probably way more risky
Mm-hmm.
in a lot of ways because it is a new IP, because of the type of game it is. So why they would choose this over something that seems pretty steadfast, like a tried and true single player experience that they know everyone's asking for, I don't know. Maybe they know something about this game that we don't. Maybe it goes back to them really being interested in the competitive scene, like they have been with Counter-Strike. I don't know, man. Obviously they are absolutely raking in a truly astronomical amount of money on something like Counter-Strike. So do they try and get another game where they can offer this style of loot box? I can't
Mhm.
even begin to describe to you. Just Google it sometimes how much money they make off of loot boxes from CS2. Well, it used to be CSGO, CS2 now only alone. It's unfathomable. Just like truly unfathomable. So I don't know if that's maybe the idea is that maybe they can hook you in another way like this. Now, I don't just want to assume they're going to be putting loot boxes in it, but if they did it once and it's that successful, why would they not try it again in a different way? I don't
I
know.
think last year, according to this article I'm seeing, Valve made $54 million a month from Counter-Strike cases.
Yeah.
Or keys, I suppose.
So is it more risky to maybe do a multiplayer new IP experience? Yes. But like I said, this isn't their main cash cow. Okay. And if they can even get a fucking fraction, if they can get what they make in 1 month in 1 year from Counter-Strike from this new game, I would say it's probably a net positive and would be a net
Right.
positive for any fucking studio in the world. So
Yeah. That's true. All right, let's talk about xDefiant. Because we all have been just clamoring to talk about xDefiant. One thing I was going to say, they bought was it Campo Santo that made Firewatch? Is that the developer? Valve bought them I don't know, almost 10 years ago now. They worked on a game for a couple years, then they said it was on hold. And who knows what? I mean, I know they're technically just part of the larger body now, but we've not seen anything from them. They've owned them for like 8 or 10 years at this point with no output, visible output. And they're still like, yeah, they're our team. You don't hear of people leaving Valve very often. They're just a pretty locked down company in general.
yeah.
I think that's pretty cool. I think it's way different than somebody like Rockstar, where it's like they're locked down because they'll murder you if you talk about anything you're working on. I think people who work at Valve love the company so much that they don't want to leak it or want to
Right.
talk about it to anybody else. Like, there's a big difference there between we will prosecute you to the full extent of the law and I love this company, so I don't want to spoil it.
We will drone strike you, or I love Father Gabe. Like, you know.
I love Father Gabe is probably.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about xDefiant for a minute here. Got some info. This is from the 24th, which would have been 4 days ago. It says, earlier this week, Ubisoft finally released xDefiant, which Dave talked a little bit about last week. According to a report from Insider Gaming, xDefiant reached 1 million unique players in its first 2.5 hours. The game surpassed 3 million users within 48 hours, attracting around 300,000 concurrent players across PC, PS5, and Xbox Series X and S. On PC, xDefiant is available exclusively on Ubisoft Connect platform. So one thing is there that not only do people have to download a different launcher, as Brandon mentioned last week, but they also can't track the player numbers perfectly, like you can with Steam. Tom Henderson also said xDefiant is now the fastest title in Ubisoft history to reach 1 million unique users. And lots of crazy stuff. The game is just popping off. I assume it will continue to do at least well. And people are going to be like, oh, it fell off from 300,000 concurrents to 40,000 concurrents. I'm like, that's still a lot of people playing your game. But Dave, you had a little bit of experience with xDefiant after it actually released. What do you think of these numbers? This is a lot of people.
Yeah, it is. The numbers themselves aren't too shocking to me, just because, again, this is a free-to-play game. It doesn't require any subscription anywhere. And I think the only surprising thing is that's, as many people are playing it on PC, considering you need to download a new launcher or have something other than Steam. So I think that's the only impressive piece, but otherwise this isn't too shocking to me. I mean, I'm sure Ubisoft is proud of this, and they should be, but I'm more kind of interested in the timing. And we talked about this about a month ago when we were trying to figure out when xDefiant was actually going to come out. One of the things we started to talk about is, like, if they wait too long, they're going to be really close to Call of Duty 2024. And sure enough, this week we finally got confirmation on what that actually is. But I still think that they picked the perfect time, because I think they have enough distance between themselves and the launch of Black Ops 6. And again, a lot of the people they're targeting, i.e. the Call of Duty people, are a little bit sour on what they have right now with Call of Duty. So I think they've really picked a really good time. They've positioned themselves with a game that is, at worst serviceable, but people seem to be liking it. It seems to be scratching the itch, and that's one of the things that I kind of mentioned last week. And again, there's zero barrier to entry, except if you really, really don't want to download that Ubisoft launcher on PC. So I think they've got a good start, but at the end of the day, the only thing that's going to matter. And sorry, the other thing I wanted to mention is, you mentioned how some people were talking about the player drop off and things like that. I've really tried to tune out a lot of the noise about this game, because I find that people are really intentionally toxic when it comes to anything that's kind of counter to Call of Duty.
Yeah.
And it's just people being sour. It's up there with, Xbox and Sony ponies. So don't listen to it. The only thing that really matters is how this game is going to be supported in the long run. And Ubisoft has a really good track record of supporting games, even if they don't have the best launches, and how many people are going to be playing this game in November. That's going to be the real test for me, because again, we'll have Black Ops 6 by then. xDefiant will have had several months to develop a player base, and that's going to be a real test. Is, a lot of them are going to go and try Black Ops 6, but are they going to come back, or are they going to stay? So that's going to be the true test. But I think xDefiant has started off on the right pace, and yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens with it. Have either of you tried it since it launched? No,
I haven't touched it.
Right.
No, yeah,
Time
no,
will
yeah.
tell, I suppose.
So I do want to give it a go. I think Dave hit it on the head there. We didn't know quite when it would launch, but I feel like it was smart to do it sooner than later this year. Yeah, I mean, it does tick a lot of the boxes that people have been wanting. I do think, as we've said many times, there's like a general lackluster feeling about Call of Duty and how things have been going. And this game does a lot of things a lot of people were asking for. So that's kind of the key of it. And Dave mentioned this exactly, is that, how much can they retain? And, part of me thinks that it doesn't really matter how well this game does post-game content, I think a lot of this game's success, and I don't want to take anything away from it, but I genuinely think this is how it's going to go, is that it will depend on how good the Call of Duty is. Like actually, I think a lot of people, and we've seen this with other games, the numbers on other first person shooters will kind of spike whenever there's a lull, and then Call of Duty puts out a new season and those numbers drop again. And obviously you can't one for one that. You don't know exactly what each player is playing and when they're jumping back and forth, but I think that xDefiant is set up to do well. And that's dependent on a lot of things. And I think some of the things it's out of their control, but they do have going for it that it's free. That's literally the biggest thing it has going for it, is that it's free. So if the content's good, there'll be people that just won't want to pay the money for Call of Duty. But I would say that's not a lot of the people that play Call of Duty. So
I think the biggest barrier to entry with xDefiant is telling people that you're playing a game called xDefiant, because it is the worst possible name for a video game I've heard in a long time. And I mentioned the finals, but like people are like, "Oh, the finals is dead." I just looked it up. 120,000 30-day average. That ain't dead. 37,000 current players. You never hear anybody talking about that game. Most of the streamers I see playing it are not big streamers. But there's a lot of people playing that game. So if xDefiant can capture a portion of that, and I'm sure they can dig Ubisoft out of their skull and bone shaped money hole. So they'll work it out. Real quick, I wanted to go back. Ed said, I thought Campo Santo developed Alex. I think so. What I was saying was they're part of the bigger family of Valve now, right? They bought them. They started working on that, like, what was it called? In the Valley of the Gods or something like that. That got put on hold. Then those people helped work on Alex. And I think they're just part of the larger whole now. But Valve kind of just, I think what they've said in the past is they just let people work on the project they're most interested in, which is a cool way to do it. It's also maybe kind of a scary way to do it. I guess if nobody's interested in working on it, they cancel it, because then if nobody wants to work on a game, probably nobody wants to play it either, to some extent. So that's what I was getting at, was that they're not really their own team. They're just kind of like, hey, you're now part of us. You're just developers in our little family, and you're just going to work on whatever we're working on. So they, as far as I'm aware, they did work on Alex, but no longer. Are we moving on? Let's move on.
Yeah.
Oh, real quick, Dave, I take it this isn't in the what you've been playing section, but you didn't type it in here. You haven't played any more yourself since last week?
No.
Okay.
I learned my lesson last week, and all I played is Nier this week.
Nice.
So,
Nice.
just had to focus.
I'm glad you've been.
That's right.
Shame. On the golden path.
He's locking in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm just gonna skip what I was gonna say. That's fine. Number 3, Sony has expressed satisfaction with current PS5 sales and teased the concept for a next-gen controller. During Sony Group's 2024 corporate strategy meeting, Sony Group CEO Yoshida and Sony Interactive Entertainment Chairman Hiroki Totoki discussed the synergy between game IPs and other media forms, and PlayStation type of success in the current generation. Totoki highlighted that PlayStation's market share is high based on PS5 sales and the broader industry, and that the company is pleased with the expansion achieved by the current gen console. Sony unveiled a concept for a next-gen controller featuring trackpads instead of the traditional analog stick, D-pad, and buttons. The controller also includes a central holographic component, potentially for augmented reality enhancements. This concept represents Sony's vision for future technological breakthroughs. I don't know about all that. Totoki revealed that PSN's data processing and volumes rank among the top 10 consumer internet services worldwide. Sony plans to develop an engagement platform using PSN's robust infrastructure. It will integrate services like Crunchyroll, aiming to standardize IDs across its services. Sony envisions this platform becoming widely adopted across the entertainment industry. This is really interesting. First of all, Dave, it's no surprise that they're the market leader. They have cut back their expectations for sales, but apparently they're still very pleased with PS5 sales. And it doesn't seem to really be, it's slowed down obviously since right after COVID, all the, all the supply was really constrained there, but they're still selling a bunch of them, and they're probably going to keep selling a bunch of them until the next console, PS6 or whatever.
Yeah. I think Sony firmly has this generation in the bag. If you want to look, well, I don't know. I don't know if we're counting Nintendo because they're off cycle a little bit, but
Yeah.
I don't see any way that Sony kind of fumbles this. I mean, even looking at the launch lineup of 2024 compared to 2023, I do wonder what the next few quarters are going to look like from a hardware perspective. We're in the latter stages of the console generation, so hardware sales always kind of drop off a little bit at that point, especially when you don't have a price drop, and I don't think we've had one yet. You know, you have what launched in 2023 that was first party for PlayStation compared to what's launched so far, albeit Helldivers was a big surprise, but I'm not convinced Helldivers was really selling consoles.
Yeah.
Rebirth apparently is not selling too well, so I wonder what that's done for hardware sales. So again, I'm not naive enough to think that PlayStation is losing steam, but I am genuinely curious to see how this year's library stacks up and kind of impacts hardware sales for the next year or two. As for some of the controller stuff you talked about there, it sounds really cool, and I'm really happy with what Sony came out with. Sorry, I got to hold my DualSense while I'm talking about this with the DualSense, because I think about the 6-axis and how overly ambitious and gimmicky that thing was, and then I think about the DualShock.
I'm going to hold mine too while you're talking about it, just
and how overly conservative that thing was. Like, it did nothing in it. And then I look at the DualSense 4 and I'm just like, this thing is just perfect for me. It's got, little things like the nice textured background that's just a nice touch, and then you have really, really cool things that I never like. Even when I pick up my Xbox controller, I'm like, where is the trigger rumble and where's my adaptive triggers and stuff like that. So I think they hit a really nice happy medium with the DualSense, and I hope they take similar steps forward with the next controller, but they don't go too far. They don't try to go too crazy and too gimmicky, because nobody played Warhawk like this, Sony. Yeah, you remember that?
Yeah, no,
that.
right,
So don't try and reinvent the wheel with the thing. Just make it cool and make it enhance the experience, but don't go overboard, because you did that with the PlayStation 3 and you got scared with the PlayStation 4, and then you kind of hit a perfect happy medium with the PlayStation 5. So I'm excited to see what they come up with for the next hardware. And yeah, I mean, we'll see what how cool it is, and what sort of, it's gonna weigh 60 pounds, because if they're putting holographic AR shit in it, the battery that needs to go in that thing, or we're gonna go back to corded, I don't know. But
oh god,
Dave, you mentioned the movement thing, and there haven't been a lot of games that I've played, at least, and I don't play a ton on PlayStation or Xbox for that matter, but I play mostly on PC. But the one thing that we talk a lot about, how whenever Astro's, what was it called? Astro's Playroom, was that the one that came with PS5?
Yeah.
Okay.
Astro Playroom.
When it came out, that game, like, it really was just to show off the controller, and it did it really well. And there's not really been a lot of games that have done similar things since. Nothing has really drawn your focus to stuff. But I was playing Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and there are a few sections, not many, but a few sections in that game where you like launch into a scene, and it gives you, like, for instance, one, you're in a plane, you're flying in the plane, and it gives you the option to like tilt your controller to navigate the plane, and there's an option to turn it off. And like after 30 seconds, every time that option came up, I was like, no, I don't want to do that. And I just turned it off immediately. And it's like, okay, so this controller has the ability, it has the gyroscope in it to do that, but I don't want to do that because the game didn't make it feel cool. The controller is cool. The possibilities it has are awesome, but it was pointless in that particular use case. And so I almost feel like Sony needs to be telling people with either this controller or the next controller, especially if there's going to be like new technology in it, look, if we're going to if you want to use this technology, we will pay you to invest in using this technology in a good way, in a cool way. Like, encourage people to add those features, encourage developers to add those features, give them money for their dev time if they need it, just to sell your platform, especially if it's multi-plats. Like, imagine if you had a game that used them as cool as Astro's Playroom, but was an action combat game that gave you a reason to want to play it with the DualSense as compared to the Xbox controller or any other controller for that matter. Like it is already has so much potential that no one taps into, and Sony should just really push that with developers, in my opinion. And maybe they have been, and it's just not been feasible. But Brandon, I want to know what you think as far as the sales numbers go. It's really interesting. We've had a few exclusives for, I just mentioned one, with Rebirth, and I've had Returnal and a couple others. But
Rat
we
shit.
haven't, rat shit, yeah. We haven't really had like a ton of games that have been PS5 exclusive or needed the PS5 to run. And they're
Right.
still selling like crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of a testament to the ecosystem that they've built. I don't think you need to have a million hit games every year to be selling things. Sometimes you just need to remaster something that isn't even that old and resell it to them.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Yeah, I just for $70. But yeah, I mean, obviously Sony is king again this generation, and I'm sure they would love to sell more, but I'm glad to hear that they're at least satisfied with what they've sold, as they probably should be. I mean, we've been seeing stats from other companies and how like abysmal the difference is between hardware from the Microsoft side and the Sony side. So yeah, I mean, they can feel like they've come out on top because they have way on top. In Tears of the Kingdom when you're like down underneath and then you shoot through the rock, Sony's like has already shot through the rock.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, this is good. And as far as I do actually want to touch on the hardware stuff because generally I agree with Dave. But I'm a little bit more hesitant. I feel like Sony does not always hit the mark with hardware. In fact, I would say most of the products they have that are their main hardware don't hit the mark, at least as far as I'm concerned. I love the DualSense 5, the DualShock 5, whatever the fuck you want to call it.
DualShock, yeah.
I love it. I fucking love it. I just wish every one I bought didn't come with stick drift out the box. So I don't know if that's Sony's fault or not, but like I feel like I've had this problem for years and years and years. I had it on my PS4, fresh out the box stick drift. I can't even use my one controller because I literally out of the box stick drift. So, you know, maybe that's a bigger problem with the people that make the switches that are both in the DualSense and in the Xbox controller. It doesn't matter to me. The fact that I'm buying this controller and it's not working well is just what I know.
Yeah.
As far as other hardware goes, I mean,
Real quick, Brandon. There's absolutely no excuse. I've had the same thing, and I especially had it with the Switch, obviously, and got those replaced. Fortunately, they did that for free. But there's no excuse for them to have them. However, if you want to be able to use your 60, 70, 80, whatever they are, dollar controller, and don't want to have to buy a new one, because Sony won't replace it, there are a few websites out there that sell replacement sticks and modules that are supposed to be, and they have good reports of no stick drift whatsoever for like under $10.
yeah,
Um,
honestly,
it's not an excuse for Sony not to make it right, but the
Right.
fact that they won't, you got to go a
Right.
different direction sometimes.
No, yeah, I agree. And I'll have to check that out. But in addition to that, not even just the DualShock, we have things like the Sony Gold headset, which I personally own myself in the PS4 generation, which I didn't think was very good whatsoever.
It was not.
In fact, I think it was really bad for the amount of money that you paid for it. I think the only good thing about it was that you can control your party to game audio natively from the headset, which I guess it's Sony's business, the fact that they can't give that to other headset companies is kind of dumb, or that they won't.
Mhm.
But that's the coolest part about it, and that's the only good part about it. Honestly, I
Yeah.
thought it was mostly junk. I know they have, or they're going to be putting out those new earbuds. I'm sure they're probably close to the same boat. And the last thing I want to touch on that I think people might argue with me, but this really is a peripheral, is the PlayStation Portal,
Mm.
which I feel like has come out to very mixed reviews in many ways, and kind of feels underbaked from all the things I've seen. So yeah, I don't know. I want to be excited for the future of Sony hardware, um, peripherals specifically, not necessarily the console itself. But I feel like I've kind of felt mixed about most of the things they've put out the past 2 generations as far as like licensed first party hardware. So
Radek in chat says, you don't think it was a skill issue on your part. He typed that when I was talking about turning off the motion controls in Final Fantasy. The reason I don't think it was a skill issue is because there was no skill involved. It was, you're flying a plane. You can do whatever you want, but you will still get to the same place you're supposed to go, and you can't control it too far. You couldn't dive bomb into the ocean. You couldn't, if you just sat there, sat the controller down, it would still just fly wherever you're supposed to fly. So it was just that it was pointless. It was like, hey, here's a feature. It doesn't matter what you do, though. You're still just going to have the same experience no matter what. Hariz, welcome. We'll start the episode over again now, just for you. Ed says, I think I have golden hands. I've never had a single Joy-Con drift. I've never, if a Joy-Con has drifted for me, it's been out of the box before I ever touched, like I turned it on and it was drifting. Not like I used it over time and messed it up myself. I'm talking like I connect it to the Switch for the first time or to my PlayStation for the first time, whatever, and it's already drifting. And then it gets worse over time potentially, maybe with use, maybe not. But I'm not talking about like I abused my controllers and mashed the hell out of my analog sticks and they drifted. I'm talking like they were wrong from the start. So
it's like a known issue on Switch too.
Yeah, I mean,
just like
if it were a player issue, specifically with the Joy-Cons, Nintendo would have not replaced literally millions of them for free. They would have made you pay for it if it were a user error issue. So that's all I got to say about that. All right, let's move on. Another thing about Steam here. Steam's death policy. I just thought that'd be fun to name it that way. Steam, with over 132 million active users, monthly active users, has confirmed that users cannot transfer their Steam library to others after their death. A Resetera forum user asked if they could include their Steam library in their will, but Steam support replied that accounts and games are non-transferable. Obviously, I understand how it's troubling, especially, there's a lot of people who are older gamers. There's obviously people die every day. There's of all ages. There's people with, just thinking about the future. And if you're somebody who's had Steam, as long as some of us have had Steam, I've had Steam since the late 90s, very early 2000s. No, 20 plus years. Let's say that. If you're somebody who's had Steam that long, you've probably got at least a decent library, especially if you're a power PC user. So I can understand wanting to incorporate it, but also at the same time, it feels a little silly passing down. You pass down your consoles, you pass down your physical games, whatever. Dave, is it important that you be able to let your children inherit your Steam library?
Man, this is heavy.
It is.
So I don't know if Steam was defending its transferability policy, or if it had actually intended to open this can of worms. Because me transferring a game to you, Ben, or you, Brandon, that's a no-brainer. That makes sense. But when it comes to somebody's death, it's like that's a very similar issue, but it's also a whole other issue that I don't know if it's ever been discussed, but it's like it's a thing. And I'm even thinking of like physical games that require an online connection. So I pass on a game to somebody after I die, and they need my account to get into it. And like, do I then does that person have to present a death certificate to Sony to like unlock my account? So this whole digital thing is like, there's so many layers to it. And I just feel like, guys, every week we're talking about another knock against digital distribution. And I'm not saying it's going anywhere, but I'm wondering is there a real chance for a physical renaissance at some point? Because again, I just feel like every week we're talking about something that makes people scratch their heads and go, I don't know, I don't really own this anymore. This could disappear at any time. And it just, I don't know. You talk about like I've got my physical games behind me, and if something happens to me, then they just go on to my next Akian. But when it comes to digital stuff, it's like, what really happens? And evidently Steam, and I'm sure Sony would feel the same way, and Microsoft don't have an appetite to set up a whole new process where you can present a death certificate and then have everything exchanged to somebody else. So I don't know, man. It's just every week there's something new. Yeah, start buying retro now. Sorry, my throat's really getting all scratched
Dave,
up,
I think the physical renaissance happens when the bombs start dropping.
Yeah.
Like, that's when I think the physical renaissance starts happening.
Yeah, apparently. But and I don't even know if there's enough of an appetite from consumers to actually drive something like this. A bit of a reversal. And I can say for certain that businesses don't want to go back to even a 50-50 split of physical digital. But I don't know. I think there's a lot that has not been considered when it comes to digital distribution, not just of video games, but of a lot of different things. Where, again, cases like this, things just are lost, and maybe it's just this definition of ownership is fundamentally changing. It really is. So, yeah, I don't know. Again, buy more retro stuff now.
Brandon, this is a little bit we talk about the physical digital thing pretty often, and you and I are mostly physical gamers. Dave is a little bit mixed, but he still respects both sides. And I mean, I respect whatever you want to do, but this is less of an issue of what happens if the license gets revoked, and more of an issue of I purchased these things, and now you're telling me I can't do with them what I want.
Right.
And I think obviously there's some constraints. You also can't do anything you want with stuff while you're alive. That that makes sense. But this is an issue of like I have spent thousands and thousands of dollars on Steam alone. I'm sure there are many people who have spent way more than that,
right,
over the years.
Yeah.
Do you just poof? It's just gone.
Yeah.
I understand if it's a subscription service, whatever. But like,
Sure.
If I buy it, shouldn't I be able to bequeath it to my kin?
Absolutely. No, I agree with you. If it's owned, you have something over it, even if it's not physical. There's been an exchanging of goods. And I think the only workaround we have here, boys, is to write your Steam username and password directly on your will. So that way this never is in question. Make sure that two-factor is not set up at the time of death. Or the number's still activated. I don't know.
On your deathbed, you're like, give me my phone. I have to turn off LastPass. I have to change my Sony settings.
Like, the code was 756.
I saw somebody commenting on this. They were like, well, you could just make sure that, along with your bank information and everything else that you're going to hopefully, have available for your kids to be able to take care of whatever after you die. Right. You just also write down your Steam password. And somebody was like, well, what if because Steam asks for your birthday. You're 50 when you get it. Steam has already been around over 20 years. Likely they'll be around another 30.
Right.
We don't know for sure, but likely. What if they're like, okay, if your account's over 100 years old, or even 70, whatever, we assume you're dead. No one can use it anymore. Sorry. Just...
Dude, Gabe could never. There would be rioting in the streets.
Gabe will be dead by then too. I'm sorry. What happens to Gabe's library? He has every game.
I know.
He just has Half-Life 3.
That's the only game installed on his computer. Also, I wonder what they added the Steam Families thing.
Yeah.
What if I'm just being ridiculous now, but like a prominent person, Henry Cavill. Please God, don't take Henry Cavill from us, but. He has a Steam account. He dies. It's very public. He's got a bunch of friends on Steam Family. They're all sharing his games. They revoke Henry Cavill's library. All his friends are out all those games now. They can't share with him. I shouldn't say friends. What I meant to say was his family.
Okay? That's right.
I meant to say his family because you don't share family with your friends, only with your family, obviously. Yeah, what happens, man? Please don't die, Henry Cavill, anytime soon. All right. Let's talk about the next thing. I don't have any news to read on this. I literally just wrote Call of Duty confirmed for Game Pass discussion. And today it was confirmed that Call of Duty Black Ops 6 will be on Game Pass day 1. Take it away, Brandon. We'll start off with you since you're the Call of Duty guy.
No, this is good. We talked a little bit about it last week, but this is good. I genuinely don't think I have much to say about it that we didn't already say. But yeah,
Pretend
it's
like
going to
we
be.
didn't say it.
Well, all I'm saying is that what ends up happening is I play for a good 3, maybe 4 months. And then once the next year rolls around, it kind of fizzles out. And then, you know, I'm like, why did I pay $70? I guess I probably got my money's worth out of it at that point. But if the alternative is to have a couple months of Game Pass and maybe try something else in the meantime as well, I mean, the value's just there. And if I could save money in the long run, then it's a fucking win-win as far as I'm concerned. So
Dave, I know you're not a fan of subscription services, but are you gonna sign up for a month or two to play some Call of Duty this year?
Let me get one thing straight. I'm a fan of a subscription service when it saves me from paying full price for a
Sure,
game that
sure,
I
sure.
will
Yeah.
easily get a month's enjoyment out of. So it's my issue is when I need that same service to play a game that I've already paid full price for. So yeah, I'm with you guys. This is great. I think Microsoft is going to see whether they got their money's worth in October, presumably when this game comes out, for the Activision Blizzard acquisition. Because yeah, this is cool. I'm just trying to think of, is there any way for us as consumers to try and see if this is successful? And I'm thinking, like, could we compare like Steam concurrent player peaks of like Modern Warfare 3 versus Black Ops 6, and if there's a steep drop off, then we can assume that everybody is either playing Skull and Bones or they are actually playing on Xbox rather than, I'm just curious if this is going to sway a large number of players over to Microsoft's ecosystem, because that's the whole point, right? But yeah, I'm excited for this game. I think something that Brandon said a couple of weeks ago really kind of got me, which is this is Treyarch's game, right? And you said they've been working on this game for like 6 years, which is,
I think this will be the 5th year. Yeah.
5th year. Yeah. So it seems like this is going to be, I don't know. I don't want to get too excited, but I am happy about this coming out. So yeah, fingers crossed it's going to be a good one. But yeah, I'll be day one on Game Pass. I wouldn't even think of paying full price for this on PlayStation, because again, I got burned with the other ones where every time I want to play it online, I got to re-up for PlayStation Plus. I don't want to have to do that. So yeah, there you go.
Yeah, it's I'm sure I'll be playing it as well. I didn't play last year's, not only because it wasn't received that well, I was just not in the mood and didn't want to buy it. So, but this, there's no barrier to entry. Other than what I'm already paying. Well, actually, right now I don't have Game Pass because it expired and I wasn't currently playing anything, and my card had expired and I didn't redo it, whatever. Anyway, so I don't have Game Pass right now, but it's an easy sign up, especially since there's a bunch of other stuff I want to play on Game Pass. But I think that's the real, Brandon kind of touched on it there. The real hope is that you come to Game Pass for Call of Duty and you stay for everything else that's there, because first of all, the app alerts you all the time. Like, this just got added. Play this game. You like this, so maybe you'll check out this, whatever. So people are going to be like, oh, I don't have to pay anything to play that. Yeah, I'll try it out. And then they're going to stay. There are going to be people who come and leave and whatever. There are also going to be people who pay $10 or $15 a month, or 17 or whatever it is now, for the rest of the year to continue playing this game, because they're like, well, I've already sunk $30 into it. I don't want to spend another $70 just to buy it outright. So they're just going to stay subscribed, and that's good. I think one of the ways we'll be able to measure it, your Steam comparison is good, but if this does crazy numbers for Xbox, they're going to announce we're now at this many subscribers. They won't be able to help them. They have to get a win, and they have to show the shareholders as well as the public that, putting this on the subscription service worked. So I think we'll hear numbers for sure if it does well. And if we don't hear like we've reached this many Game Pass subscribers, even if it's the same iteration of something we already know or slightly higher, then I'd be a little weirded out by that probably. But I think they'll probably hit it.
Are you guys seeing Saddam Hussein?
Saddam Hussein? Is that what you just said?
Yeah, dude. I'm pretty sure if you go on,
he's dead.
Yeah,
we're talking about Black Ops 6.
I know, but there's all these rumors. They're like, and someone even said it in the chat. They're like, "Are you going to stop 9/11?"
Is it
going to
happen to do with 9/11?
I don't know, dude. I'm not a fucking nerd. I'm a gamer, bro.
Are you saying like in the key art or something? You see him? Like, what are you? Is he
Also-
in the room with you right now, Brandon?
I'll send it to you, OG.
All right.
Oh, man. It's time to talk about Saddam Hussein and what we've been playing as well.
It's not.
Brandon, let's start off with you
Yeah.
this week.
So I finished my first playthrough of Stellar Blade, and I wrapped up my second playthrough not too shortly after. I told you guys last week I was well on my way to the platinum, and that was the honest to God truth. About 40 of my hours were collecting in my first playthrough. I think I ended with around 50 hours. I'm not 100% certain that that's accurate. There probably was a couple times that I went and made dinner or something, but about 50 hours is what it's clocking in at. And the last playthrough was literally probably like 5 or 6 hours max. I was just running through it. So I needed to do a very specific number of things that was not very many, and then just get to the end. So I just blitzed it. But yeah, man, this game is awesome. Unfortunately, it did get updated like as soon as I fucking platinumed it, like the next day or whatever. There was new outfits, some pretty appealing outfits from what I saw. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. So platinum in the bag. This is the first platinum I've got this year, and the first platinum I've got in the past 2 years. I think 2022 might have been my last platinum. So it's been a minute, and it felt good. It felt really, really good. I love this game quite a bit. I'm looking forward to anything else they put out in the future. And I would love to see them continue to update this game, which
Nice.
well, honestly, I think they will. They've already, delivered a pretty robust amount of content, New Game Plus, extra outfits in New Game Plus, as I mentioned a week or two ago. So I do see them continuing to kind of put love into the game. So,
Nice.
but yeah, and I guess aside from that, I've just been playing Elden Ring, boys. Just getting ready. The clock is counting down. We're less than a month away from Shadow of the Erd Tree. Something's tingling in my body, and I'll let you guys guess what it is. But yeah, no, this is good. I'm to some of the hardest parts of the game, so um, it's been a little bit trying. My run's been pretty smooth. I think I probably have about 60 hours of that in now too as well. But we're kind of slowing down a little bit. We're getting into the tough stuff. So
This is your PC run, the one you're streaming, you mean?
Mhm.
Or this is your PlayStation run?
No, yeah, I shout out to Poot for my birthday. He got me Shadow of the Erd Tree on PC, so I at least wanted to finish one full playthrough, if I could manage it by the time Erd Tree came out. So
Yeah.
I'm well on my way to that. I don't know that I'm going to stick with my Twin Blade build. Well, let's say this: I'm going to stick with my Twin Blade build throughout my first playthrough, but I don't know that that's what I'm going to be going into the DLC with. So I'll probably end up respecking at the end, because although it's been fun, it's not the one I would pick of all of them. It was just something new I hadn't tried. So
Nice.
yeah, it's been a lot of fun though.
Cool. For me, and we have to save Dave for last, obviously, because of what he's playing. For me, I've been playing still a lot of Sea of Thieves, a lot of events happening over the last week or so. So just in there, and not a lot of new content per se, just a lot of people and a lot of playing. There's been a lot of. It feels a lot more alive. They added more ships to this, one more ship to the servers now, which has hurt stability a little bit, and that's one of the reasons they had originally removed that. But just the amount of new players and the amount of both on PlayStation and other platforms. And the PlayStation players are feisty, and some of them are really racist too. But that's it. I mean, that's every new player base until they all get banned. But there's a lot of fun to be had right now in Sea of Thieves. I'm playing more V Rising. I don't have a lot more to say about it than I've said already. It's a survival crafting vampire game, and I'm in. Like I love it. But we've just been kind of trying to navigate through the little bit of story there is there, go and kill all the bosses to unlock new things, to build the place better, bigger and better. And I've been playing a lot of that with Brad. So that's been a lot of fun. But the thing I really wanted to talk about was, you guys remember 33 Immortals? It was announced back at one of the Xbox showcases a while back. It's basically a roguelite with 30 up to 33 players. You hop into a single world and you're all kind of battling at the same time. And I got I signed up. It was just on Steam. I signed up for an invitation to the closed beta, and they sent it out. And I don't know if it's still going on or if it's over or not. I probably put, I don't know, less than an hour into this, and so I didn't really give it its due, I don't think. But you really start out in it like any roguelite, almost no powers. You pick a weapon and you go in, and this though you're with 33 other players, and I think as you progress, you go to less and less players that are with you, and of course, I'm sure the enemies get harder and harder. But I don't think I like it. It's not that it's. I like the style of game. I like multiplayer games, but to me, it felt very hollow. You're just in this world, and when you die or get downed or whatever, your other players have 30 seconds or a minute to pick you up and revive you if they want to. But the map is very far spread out, so unless everybody's actually working together, which does not happen in multiplayer games without everybody being in a party, and even then you're lucky. Everybody just spreads out. So like these guys go up to the top left of the map, these guys go up to the top right. Like everybody spread out. So you got 33 people, and by 25 seconds into the match or into the segment that you're in, there's like 2 people within distance of you that's worth talking about. That's part of it. The other part is like it seems like this could be a cool roguelite. It could be a cool experience, but they tacked on this multiplayer aspect to it that just doesn't really do anything for me. And I love, like you guys know, I love multiplayer games. I play a lot of multiplayer games, but it's like there's a bunch of other people there, and you could all be working together, but it's there for no reason. So, like I said, I didn't really give it a lot of time, and I'm sure there's more to be had. The mechanics that are in it right now feel really shallow. It's like, okay, I've got a dash, I've got a light attack, I've got a heavy attack. And that's it. There's really no it's just brute force. Didn't seem like a lot of strategy. Of course, again, it's very early on. I barely played it. But I'm just giving you my initial impressions here that it felt very shallow. It felt very disjointed. And it could be a fun game, but the fact that it's a multiplayer game, one, just seemed tacked on. It didn't seem like it was added anything to the experience. And 2, it makes me think if this game doesn't do phenomenally, or it's a year in or whatever, and I try to hop in, am I even going to have enough people to play with? There does come a point where that is an issue. So I don't know. I'm not real optimistic about it, but I'd love to be proven wrong, and hopefully they can get some feedback. I submitted a little feedback thing through the alpha, and she's like, here's my impressions after an hour. I don't even think it was an hour, but an hour of playing, and hopefully other people, if they felt the same way, do the same thing. I didn't used to be this way, but now anytime I'm playing something that asks for bug reports or asks for feedback or anything like that, I've been very diligent about actually providing those, because I do feel like if I were the developer, I would want to know those things. And there's been so many games over the years I've played that have been like, tell us about your experience, and I've been like X and canceled out and just whatever. So I basically provided them zero information, and then I never played their game either because it sucked. So I've just been trying to be a little bit better about that personally. So, but yeah, 33 Immortals, I think it was fun, but I don't think it's, as it stands at this moment, it ran well. Everything performed the way it was supposed to. I was like, why would I play this instead of literally any other roguelite that is single player? So that's kind of where I fell. But Dave,
sorry, I gotta ask. Were you playing on PC?
I did play on PC with a controller though.
I got a key too for Xbox, and then shortly after I got the key, I got another email saying there is a major Xbox issue. We'll send you an update when this is fixed. And I never got an email, so
it may still be going on. I don't actually know.
Maybe, but I have that same concern. It was like I have to applaud them for, one, being an independent studio, and 2, trying something ambitious like this. But I had the same concern where it's like, what happens if you don't have 33 other people playing, or I don't know. You're right. It does seem a little tacked on, but
And realistically, most of the time I was playing, and I played a couple different runs, I was playing by myself, even though there were 32 other people on the map with me, because it's such a large area and everybody just kind of goes and does. Like, everybody has their own objectives. Like, some people want to go and collect this currency. Also, there's a bunch of different currencies or, things that you pick up. And I think only one of them was explained what it actually did, and it let you heal. And that was great, but I was like, well, I've got all these other things and I have no idea what they do. And maybe I was just, again, didn't play very long. Maybe I'm stupid. Maybe it's a combination. But I was just like, the first time I picked this up, if not in the exact moment, because it is a live game, like there's other people playing, then when I go back to the hub, it should tell me what that thing does. And, maybe if I'd done more digging, it would have been there. But I got the feeling, I was like, I have all these little blobs. I don't even know what they're called because it doesn't tell me. Like, these blobs on my screen, it tells me I have 16 underneath it. I don't know what they do. And seemed a little shallow to me. So, again, hopefully they get good feedback. And I don't mean positive for my liking. Maybe other people liked it. But hopefully they get useful feedback and can make adjustments. And like you said, Dave, they're an independent studio. I would love for the game to be a hit. I just... I don't know. It didn't seem like my personal cup of tea. But you know what? It's going to be on Game Pass. I'm pretty sure. I'll probably try it again. It's a good chance I'll try it again and see how it goes once it actually releases. But on to the most important segment of our What Have You Been Playing. Dave, we go to you.
Nier Automata.
Do
Last
it again.
we spoke, I had just finished my first playthrough, and I was very happy with where I left off. Unfortunately, the second playthrough is kind of a drag. You play from the perspective of 9S, and things I liked. I liked replaying some of the set piece moments from the first playthrough, such as the opening. The fight with Simone at the amusement park, the theme park. One of the last boss battles against there's this big thing in this industrial area, who's a really cool boss. And I like, because it's from a slightly different perspective when you're playing as 9S, because you're more hacking focused.
Mm-hmm.
And I really liked 9S's hacking minigame. I love when you kind of zoom in to like this weird little like shooter thing, and the music turns into like a chiptune soundtrack, and it's super dynamic and fun and cool. And I like that part. I liked that you got a little bit more insight into the story, so that there were some new cutscenes with Adam and Eve, and you, I think, got some more in-depth lore about how the machines actually became to be who they were. So I like that. Otherwise, playing through the campaign a second time in the second playthrough I ran through it as quickly as possible, because after an hour or two, I realized that like there wasn't anything really new that was going to happen, which I didn't really expect that. I had low expectations for the second playthrough, but it was still not, it was an extra 3-4 hours that I just was like, this feels needless, but I get it. They're telling a story. So I moved on to my third playthrough, which isn't calling it a third playthrough isn't really correct, because it's more of a continuation of where the story left off. And the third playthrough, I'll just call it playthrough, has been absolutely fucking obnoxious. There is like this crazy like difficulty spike, and suddenly all the enemies in the world are like 10 to 15 levels above you, and there's no explanation as to why. And I'm playing through like the first two playthroughs, and I'm thinking like, this game is kind of easy, and like I don't know if I did too many side missions, and I wasn't complaining, because I'm enjoying the story. It's got really cool combat, and I was having a good time. But then suddenly the game is like just ridiculously hard, and there's no explanation. And I mentioned it to Ben, and I even like sent a message to Edwin, and I'm like, what is happening here? Like, why has this gotten like this? And there's these segments in the third playthrough where like you suddenly can't jump and you can't dodge, and like your vision is gone, and it's just like, I get this is trying to be cinematic, but this isn't fun. And it's, yeah, so I don't know. I died a whole lot, and it was just getting frustrating. And honestly, guys, I'm 21 hours in, and I'm kind of at a point where I just kind of want to see this thing through. And some crazy things just happened in the story, and I just took control of to S, the last character, the girl, I can't remember her name. And I knew this was coming. I knew this moment was coming. I knew at some point I was going to take control of this character. And in the first 30 minutes or an hour or so of playing as this character, I'm like, okay, she was worth waiting for because she plays really cool. So I'm hoping I'm just coming up to the crest now, but I got to be honest, through my second playthrough and whatever the last couple hours was, I'm kind of dragging a little bit with this game. But yeah, I don't know. Everybody keeps telling me it gets crazy and weird shit happens. So yeah, that's kind of where I am right now with Nier, and I really want to take a break, but I'm also been told several times that if I take my foot off the pedal, then that's not going to be good for me. So yeah, I don't know. That's where I'm at right now.
A2, by the way.
A2, that's it. 2S, yeah. So,
yeah, so Poot brings up a really good question in the chat. Wants to know who the third chair will be.
Am I missing something here? Like, please tell me. And
well, I just want to tell Poot real quick that when we replace Brandon for not finishing Nier Automata, when Dave and I, even if Dave doesn't end up liking it, we'll have to have tryouts or something. But I give respect to anybody who's tried it the whole way through, you know. Yeah, Dave, I think I started thinking about it more after you asked me about it, and I looked back and I'm like, yeah, I do remember there being a difficulty spike, and the level scaling is definitely a little awkward in playthrough C or whatever you really want to call it. But I just don't remember, and it's been a few years, I just don't remember having that difficult of a time with it. I do remember thinking it was the greatest thing I'd ever played in my life. But not necessarily because of that gameplay. It was more about the story for me, very, very far, or very, very much so. I'm trying to think if there are things in the previous playthroughs that would have helped you had you done them, but I don't think there really are. Changing up the playstyle a little bit, you know, maybe a different weapon, remembering you can dodge, different abilities, whatever, probably help. But I personally, and again, just could be just bad memory, don't remember it being that big of a spike that I was frustrated by it.
To be clear, I got through it. And it's like I'm past that part. And again, I was talking to Edwin, and he made a good point where like that's actually a good opportunity to farm a little bit. But I just don't understand what necessitated suddenly all of the enemies being 10 to 15 levels above you. And there's a lot of tanky enemies that you have to beat. Like you can't just run right through them, but like you actually have to kill them to progress the story. And I used the word obnoxious, and it just felt a little obnoxious. And again, I'm controlling the new character now, and things feel a little bit better. And I am looking forward to the next sort of stage of the game. But I don't know. It's just the slog of the second playthrough, and then whatever this is soured me a little bit. But
yeah, I wholeheartedly agree. I mean, I enjoyed it, but I told you this before. I agree that the second playthrough as 9S. Not only because he's a whiny little bitch, but I didn't enjoy it as much. But you know, everybody at the time was saying you gotta go, and so I did, and I very much appreciated the fact that I did. But I would agree that the second playthrough is my least favorite by far. Here's the Nier apologist chiming in. Ed is just a fixture that we deal with. It's like you have a snake in the backyard and he's not really hurting anything, but also you don't really want him there. No, I'm just kidding. Ed.
Honestly, I tend to agree with what Dave's saying. Exactly. It's, you know,
to this point, it has been a wildly inconsistent experience for me. And that goes for everything from like the highs are super high, but the lows are super low. There's parts in the game that are beautiful that I'll never forget. And there's other parts in the game where as I said, I feel like they ran out of color ink in the printer, and the color palette was just completely off. So I don't know. I'm looking forward to finishing this game and kind of seeing how it ends, because if it has a really cool crescendo, then I'll forget about everything else. But we'll see. I want to play Devil May Cry. As I'm playing this game, I'm like, can I get to Devil May Cry now?
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah. Didn't you? I thought you played through the whole series last year.
Yeah, I got to 3, and
Okay.
I'm eyeing 4 now, and 5 obviously. But yeah, I've been meaning to get back to it. And playing Nier has made me, and I don't mean to be reductive about Nier. I think it's kind of a compliment that Nier is making me want to go back to Devil May Cry. But
Yeah.
I do have 2 more games in the Devil May Cry series to play, but yeah, that'll come later, I think.
Dave, I will say, so you had me curious because I think you popped into my stream or something and asked about it, and I remember. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go back and see what I said, and I went back and listened to an old episode of a podcast I recorded. I guested on, and I did talk about how all the moments in the game were not my favorite, but the ending made me forget all of it. And that is still true, apparently, because now 5+ years after 2017, 2018 that I played it, all these years later, I'm like, I don't remember disliking any of it. But Ed just said this, and I hate to agree with Ed, but I'm going to. Brandon at one point said the combat.
That's why I don't like it. That's why I don't like it.
Nier is not a gameplay game.
Thank you.
So Ed says Nier is not a gameplay game, and Brandon at one point said the combat in Nier is ass or something along those lines. And I disagree with both of those statements to an extent, but I will say that the gameplay, as compared to the story when you see it completed, the gameplay is doo-doo. Even though I like the gameplay, it is terrible comparatively. So I will say that if that's the main focus, then yeah, it's not the best game ever made. But I think that the story really does make up for it quite a bit. So.
I have one more question? And you guys know me, you know the pace at which I play. Considering the point in the game I'm at now, is it reasonable for me to finish this game this time next week?
Oh yeah, easily.
Okay.
Yeah, yes, I'm not going to give you a time estimate, but yes.
Okay.
I would agree.
I think yeah, hopefully we'll have a different conversation this time next week, but I will endeavor to finish in the next week.
Yeah.
And then we can
Then you can wipe your hands of this.
Yeah. We can play Stellar Blade, the real man.
That's right. The waifu battle.
Well, with that statement, that's all the time we have for the show tonight.
Send your resumes to Ben's house at 123.
I'll fight you. I'll fight you to the death.
Yeah. Okay, so just for a moment, imagine Dave finishes Nier and says, I hated that game. I would still respect him more than Brandon because Brandon hasn't finished it.
I don't need your respect. I've said this so many times.
It's just ball busting, buddy.
I know.
Hey, don't forget. Yeah, you should play it. I agree. And a couple of weeks ago, you said I'm thinking about going back and playing Nier.
If Elden Ring wasn't around, I probably actually would have started it as soon as I got done with Stellar Blade, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Don't forget, after hearing me bitch about it, have you changed your mind?
No.
Okay.
You didn't love Stellar Blade when you first started it either.
When I played pre-release, I was like, I don't know.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, like 4 or 5 hours in, I was like, the shit's fire. The shit's gas.
Yeah. You can join us over on patreon.com/handsomephantom for as little as $1 a month. We appreciate your support there. You can join us in the Discord, handsomephantom.com/discord. We appreciate that as well. Other than that, give us a thumbs up on YouTube right now if you're here live, or if you're watching later and you're still around. I don't know if the thumbs up do anything, but I want them for my collection. We'll be back next week. Until then, goodbye. All right, boys. I don't know if this is good or not, but I had the idea of just bequeath my games to my kin as the show title.
33 maybe? Shit mortals.
Bequeath or queef?
Bequeath. Isn't it bequeath?
No, it's queef. Trust me.
Bequeath.
It's Queff. He's Canadian. He knows. He's got the hinge mouth.
Oh, it was definitely Saddam Hussein, by the way.
Dude, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
that's what I'm
it's
And Bill
saying.
Clinton's in there too.
Dude, that's
Were
what
they
I'm
trying to
saying.
disguise that?
I don't.
No, but I'm
It
saying
definitely
like,
looked like Bill Clinton.
Okay.
I'm saying I think that was recently revealed. Is what I'm saying. So that's
Oh, yeah,
kinda
yeah.
fun.
I'd become a career politician until they annexed Canada just to dismantle it if that happened. Fair enough. To my children, my my Steam library. Oh boy. Yeah. No.
Nier is not a gameplay game.
I disagree with that, but I 100% understand it.
Hold up. The one thing I'll say about Nier's combat is that it looks so much cooler on screen than when you actually hit the fucking buttons. Like hitting the buttons is no fun. It looks amazing on your screen. It looks so fucking cool. It looks good. But I did not have fun pressing the buttons. I didn't. And that's why I play games. Is to press the fucking buttons. Not to
Yeah.
listen to some drab fucking story for 10 hours. Jesus.
Brandon just didn't
fucking
like it
Christ.
because he didn't understand the story.
Yeah, I'm too stupid. I'll say it. Gun go shoot. That's all I know. It's no Hellblade 2.
Those are good.
That's what
Even
that's
the
what
Uncharted
chat
thing
says,
is a
that's
good
what chat
comparison.
says.
But
But here, Hellblade 2.
Forward. What? No,
That's it. That's all you do. Just, I don't think you have
Not
to do
even
very
that.
much. Not very much. I want to play Hellblade 2, but not yet. Not yet. I have to wait for some of the discourse to die down so I can forget about it, hopefully, and enjoy it for what it is. Instead of
play
for
that-
what people want it to be.
I'll play that when I have Game Pass when you guys aren't on Call of Duty
Nice.
in November.
Deep Rock Galactic Season 5, June 13th.
Let's go, baby. June 13th. No, there's no time. There's Elden Ring to play. No time.
Dave, we
No
got to
time.
hop in at least one time together,
Yes.
brother.
Yeah, if you-
Rocket Stone
Carl.
on Steam. We got to do it on Steam, though.
If you guys are hopping in, I gotta fucking hop in. If it's only gonna be one time, Jesus.
I said
Christ.
at least. Dave and I might play 24/7. You don't know.
Yeah,
He'll neglect his wife and child.
He might become a Deep Rock streamer.
Me? Yeah, right.
There's no racist in there.
0.
I'm forsaking games. Get on the Jinx season 2. Edwin and I am. I am. I'm caught up.
I gotta go, fellas.
All right, I do too. Good night, everyone. Thanks for hanging out. We appreciate
Love
it.
you.
See ya.
Excited for Final Shape? I don't know. Let me think about that.